Happy Columbus Day. I am going to read you the Christopher Columbus story. This is by Judy Potts. Illustrators are those people. Liz, it says Foy Lisbon, PhD, and Jerry Poole. So, let's see how this goes. Now, the first thing in this Columbus Day celebration, it says, it is lawful to call it a new world, because none of these countries were known to our ancestors. Okay, it's a new world. And this, who said that, was Amerigo Vespucci, 1497, an Italian explorer for whom America is named. Now, I didn't want to spoil the secret, but there it is. There's an old map where, we were French, we knew all that, okay? Says Vitus Bering, a Dane in the Russian army, gave Russia its North American claim by exploring islands off the present-day Alaska, the Bering Sea, Bering Strait, Bering Land Bridge, are named for him, okay? So, I guess Christopher Columbus landed down here in, I looked it up, San Salvador, on October 12th, 1492. Bahamas, I guess it's part of the Bahamas. He landed in the Bahamas. It was a sovereign nation. It's, I guess, still occupied up here by, less than that. Okay, so I am going to get to the story, the Christopher Columbus story. Okay, so there's a quote here. A man is usually a wandering, enterprising animal for whom there exists few insurmountable barriers. It's just a few, according to H.G. Wells. Okay, and the Europeans, because this is where they came from, right? They came from over here. Okay. Anyway, they came for curiosity, wealth, fame, pride, religion, foreign goods, cheaper and faster trade routes. Okay. Okay, it said America, within its two continents, North and South, is 4 times larger than Europe. Okay. But 1,000 years ago, Europeans did not know about this land or its millions of people existed. They didn't know. Now, use your discernment with all this stuff, because none of us were there. This is what it says. That's an old map. Vikings. Here's where the Vikings come in. Okay, about 960 A.D., Eric the Red, an adventurous Viking, or Norseman, brought his family from Norway to Iceland, and then, 20 years later, he founded a settlement in Greenland. About 1000 A.D., Eric's son, Leif Erikson, sailed west from Greenland in search of a strange coastland sighted earlier by another Norseman. Leif and his crew of 35 men landed on the coast of present-day Newfoundland, which they named Vinland. After wintering there, they sailed back to Greenland with a load of grapes and lumber. The other Norsemen soon returned to Newfoundland and formed a settlement, but because of the hostile Indians, they remained only 3 years. You can visit this site at L'Anse Ox Meadows in Newfoundland. Little did the Vikings know that the continental shelf, a submerged land off Newfoundland's coast, the Great Banks, is one of the best fishing areas in the world, and that its cod, mackerel, herring, and halibut are someday became New England's gold. And little did the Vikings know they had been to America. Let's see if I can get all this map here. It says no media events publicized the Vikings' New World adventures. There was no historian taking notes. John Gutenberg did not invent the printing press until 1450. So nobody really remembered it, but yeah, these people, maybe they made it up. Maybe it's true. You see the Arctic Circle up there. See that up here? I mean, I love old maps. Okay, so, America, still the biggest secret to the Europeans. They were clueless about it. Okay, alright, so, in Christopher Columbus's day, 500 years later, America was still big secret to the Europeans. Okay, 1492, most of these educated Europeans thought the world was round, and there's this Behaim globe, which showed it was round in one ocean with a sea of darkness separating Europe and Asia. Sailors feared monsters in the sea of darkness, and they didn't cross it. We have Marco Polo's land route to Asia. It says between 1271 and 1275, Marco Polo was an Italian, had blazed a land trail east to Asia, also called the Indies, and later brought back such luxury goods as spices, silks, gold, jewels. Tradesmen followed, but Europeans needed a sea route west to buy the Indies goods more cheaply. Land routes were hazardous and slow and costly. Who would dare sail west across the Sea of Darkness to reach the east with all its riches? One bold adventurer came forth, Christopher Columbus, a man who had a dream and pursued it with optimism, determination, and courage. In 1492, Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Why? Writing in 1501, at age 50, he explained that from a very young age I began to follow the sea, and I have continued to do so this day. This art of navigation incites those who pursue to inquire into the secrets of the world. Well, a funny thing happened to Christopher Columbus on his way to the Indies. He bumped into America, and he discovered the world's biggest secret to the Europeans. Nothing in the world would ever be the same again. Read on for a Columbus incredible adventure. It's a pretty long story. I hope I don't run out of juice on this phone. Okay, this is the Christopher Columbus story, 1451 to 1506. The main source for this chapter is the life of the Admiral Christopher Columbus, a biography by his son Ferdinand Columbus, 1488-1539, who at age 13 sailed with his father on Columbus's fourth voyage to America in 1502 to 1504. Ferdinand grew up to be a noted scholar with a library of 15,000 books. Ferdinand began the biography of his father with these words: I, Ferdinand Columbus, being the son of the Admiral Christopher Columbus, a person worthy of eternal glory for his discovery of the West Indies, it seems fitting that I, who sailed with him for some time, should write the history of his life. I promise to tell the Admiral's life only from his own writings and letters and what I myself observed. Christopher Columbus was born in 1451 in Genoa, an Italian seaport. The eldest of 5 children, he helped his father, a wool weaver, but he longed to be a sailor. He went to sea at 14, a tall, strong, ruddy-skinned, blue-eyed blonde. By 50, his hair was prematurely white. He eventually became one of the most skilled seamen and navigators of all his time. According to Ferdinand, Christopher was devoted to God and so great an enemy to cursing and swearing that I never heard him utter any other oath than by San Fernando. I don't know what that means. Shipwrecked off the Portugal coast in 1476, Columbus settled in Lisbon and worked in his brother Bartholomew's map-making shop. In 1479, he married Filipa Muniz, a daughter of a Portuguese nobleman who had discovered the Madeira Islands and whose exploration charts Columbus read eagerly. The next year, they had a son, Diego. Portugal was a great place for the seamen because in 1419, Prince Henry, the navigator, found a center for studying new science of navigation in the hopes of finding a sea route to the Indies around the tip of Africa. In Portugal, Columbus himself taught Latin, the language of geography books, so he could begin the exciting study of geography. He also learned drawing tool of the geographer's trade. Books sparked Columbus's imagination, including that of Italian Marco Polo, which described Polo's 1271 to probably 1295 journey to China with its wondrous gold, jewels, and spices, and his adventures with the Chinese ruler Kublai Khan. Columbus had an idea. The big question, how wide is this ocean separating Europe and Asia? The letter from Toscanelli, the Italian astronomer, says the ocean is only 3,000 miles wide. And they thought that was encouraging, but according to this little thing, says it was a slight area off by about 8,000 miles. In 1484, Columbus gave his idea a big name, Enterprise of the Indies, and he tried to sell it to Portugal's King John II. The king and his committee of experts. The caption here says it makes perfect sense. We can reach the east by sailing west. Think of all the spices and gold. Portugal could become a world power. I bet other countries would jump at the chance to beat the Portuguese to the Orient. Bartholomew, you go ask Henry VIII, King of England, and Charles VIII of France if they will finance our voyage, and I'll go ask the King and Queen of Spain. So in 1485, Columbus and little 5-year-old Diego, whose mother had died, sailed into the Spanish harbor of Palos and started up the road. At La Ribada, which was a Catholic monastery overlooking the harbor, Fray Juan Perez was a kindly friar and provided them help. In 1486, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella received Columbus at the court in Cordoba. Isabella, at 35, the same age as Columbus, expressed interest, but Ferdinand had his doubts. They committed a committee of geographers to study the enterprise of the Indies proposal. The committee took its time, 4 years. While Columbus fell in love with Beatriz Enriquez of de Arana of Cordoba, who in 1488 bore him a son, Ferdinand. As young boys, both Ferdinand and Diego served as pages to Queen Isabella. In 1490, the committee gave a negative report observing that since creation, no learned man has tried such an idea, and the men added, what makes Columbus think he's so smart. You have to sail uphill and come back. It's never going to be done. Ocean's too wide. It would take too long. So, disappointed, Columbus decided to go ask the French king for support. Bartholomew had not succeeded there, but at Palos, where he went to get Diego, Fray Perez advised him, forget France, go back and ask Isabella one more time. They said, you're right, Fray Perez, Diego. They started packing. In January 1942, Columbus went to the camp of Santa Fe, where the Catholic monarchs had just defeated the Moors, M-O-O-R-S, ending 7 centuries of Muslim power in Spain. King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella were in a good mood. It says, Your Majesty, I figured out the secrets of the ocean trade winds. Now, will you support my voyage to the Indies? Well, it makes sense now. So, Isabella finally said yes, causing Columbus to write later. Everyone else was disbelieving, but to the Queen, my lady, God gave the spirit of understanding. It says, we can convert many heathens to Christians, and it says, grab plenty of riches. Yeah, they robbed you, all right. Anyway, Spanish monarchs appointed Columbus admiral of the ocean sea and governor of any lands he might discover on his way to the Indies. On August 3rd, 1492, the Nina, Pina, and Santa Marina sailed with Columbus and 90 crewmen, first to the Canary Islands, and then west to the edge of the unknown. There's the voyage from Spain. Okay, on October 10th, after seeing no land for a month, the sailors threatened mutiny, but Columbus, true to his dream, convinced them that their goal was within reach, and they agreed to sail on 3 more days. 2 days later, at Rodriga Triana, on the Pinta, cried out, Tierra, tierra, meaning land, land. And so, on October 12th, 71 days out of Spain, Columbus and his crew landed on a small island in the Bahamas, giving thanks to God. Columbus named the island San Salvador, or Holy Savior, certain that he had arrived in the Indies. Columbus named the peaceful natives who greeted him Indians. They thought the Spaniards were men from heaven. Columbus then explored the island of Haiti, which he named Hispaniola, and Cuba, which he thought was China. He searched for gold and the Chinese ruler Kublai Khan. Isabella had given him a letter for the great Khan, but all he found was Indian smoke and tobacco. After 10 weeks of exploring, Columbus sailed back to Spain, bringing home 7 Indians, parrots, corn, tobacco, addiction, hammocks, and only a little gold. Spain welcomed Columbus as a hero. He had done the impossible. Listening to his triumphant report, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella allowed the Admiral of the Ocean Sea to sit in their presence. It was a rare tribute. Portugal tried to claim the islands Columbus had discovered, so in 1493, Spain asked Pope Alexander VI, the Spaniard, to intervene. The Pope drew a line of demarcation, 100 leagues, which is 300 miles, west of the Azores Islands, giving Spain all non-Christian land to the west, and Portugal those to the east. In 1492, the Treaty of Tordesillas confirmed the Pope's decision with one change. Portugal felt cheated out of South America, so the Pope moved the dividing line 270 leagues farther west, giving her Brazil. Meanwhile, Columbus made a return voyage. with 17 ships and 1,300 men to establish a trading colony on Hispaniola. The Arawak Indians on Hispaniola, enslaved to work in gold mines and infected with European diseases, suffered terribly at the hands of the Spaniards. Within 20 years, only about 250 of 5 million survived. Columbus was a brilliant seaman, managed poorly on land, unable to control the cruelty towards the Indians and participating in it. He was accused by rivals of unfitness and was brought to Spain in chains. The monarchs restored his freedom and his status as an explorer, but not his titles and glory. Between 1492 and 1504, Columbus made 4 voyages to the New World. All of his life, however, he remained convinced that he reached Asia. And so when the Italian Amerigo Vespucci sailed the American coast in 1497 and called it a new world, German mapmaker in 1507 named the New World America. Later, Ferdinand honored his father in a unique way. After reading Seneca's Mede, a 2nd century, an age will come after years when the ocean will loose the chains of things and a huge land lie revealed. Ferdinand wrote in the margin, "This prophecy was fulfilled by my father." Yeah, well, liar. The admiral in the year 1492. Columbus died in 1506. But his adventurous spirit lives on, inspiring all who read of him to dream big, big dreams, dream big, big dreams, and with optimism, determination, and courage, make them come true.